Hey everyone, and welcome to Candid Motherhood. I just wanted to take a minute and thank all of our listeners for your support. You all are amazing. If you'd like to get to know me or Jackie better, if you aren't already, please follow us on Instagram or Facebook at candid.motherhood or on YouTube at Candid Motherhood. We post pictures and videos daily. If you have questions, feedback, or ideas for future episodes, please don't hesitate. Leave us a message or a comment. Again, thank you so much for all your support. Jackie and I love you all. Hello, Candid Mamas, and welcome. You're listening to the Candid Motherhood podcast with Roxy
and Jackie,
where we tell you all about the ins and outs of motherhood.
We share our own life experiences to prepare you for the good, the bad, and the ugly that comes along with parenting.
So grab your coffee,
sit down,
get comfy,
and enjoy today's episode.
Welcome back, Candid Mamas, to another episode of Tell All Tuesday. Today we are talking about changes in your relationship after children or after marriage. So, hi Roxy, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good. So, we know that there are changes that come to a relationship after having kids. Long gone are your days of binge watching TV and bottomless mimosas. Your tiny humans require everything you've got, but what about your relationship? Suddenly it becomes second to the task at hand. Survival. So now you no longer have any freedom yourself, and you are on a fight or flight mode with your new relationship and your new baby. So we're going to talk a little bit about what your relationship looked like pre-kids and what it looked like after kids. So Roxy, I know there are some instances like, let's say, date night. So what did you do before kids that maybe now after kids you can't do during your date nights?
Well, date nights are pretty much non-existent for us ever since we've gotten, well, I would say after 2 and 3 kids, it's pretty much non-existent. When we had just Julie, it was much, much easier to get out of the house because it was just one kid. And, you know, my mother, we used to live with my mother in the beginning, so she would just watch her anytime. Before we had kids, we used to go out like 3 times a week, definitely every weekend. If not going out, we'd have people over or we'd go out to dinner or a movie. You know, it was kind of like, what do you feel like doing tonight? Let's go do it. Yeah. Now, it takes a lot more planning. You got to get babysitters. Sometimes someone's not willing to watch all 3 kids. You know, and the little one, he's still being breastfed. So, like, I literally can't leave him anywhere if I know he's going to be going to sleep because he won't sleep without it. So it makes it difficult. But on the odd occasions that we do get out, you know, I'll have a family member watch him, like my mom or my sister or my uncle. And then we can go out. But it's not the same because now we got to be back at a certain time. We got to watch our timing, and we can't be out more than 2 or 3 hours, and you know, it makes it more difficult. So I think the more kids you have, the harder it is to get out.
Yeah, I mean, I know for myself, date nights before having kids, I mean, date night was pretty much every night because it's just you and your boyfriend or you and your husband. And me and Rob, we really like to be adventurous with our date nights, so we would go to Atlantic City a lot and gamble, or we like to drink, so we'd go out to a bar and just stay out till whenever. But now, like you said, date nights come with like a time frame because you can't be out all night, and they're pretty much exhausting. You know, you have to plan who's going to watch the kids, where are you going to go, are we taking too long, should I have a drink, should I not have a drink, you know, I still got to drive home, I still got to take care of the kids when we come back. And typically, I don't know about you, but my kids either stay with my mother-in-law or my parents, but they don't really have sleepovers very often. It's pretty rare that they'll sleep over somebody's house, especially my mother-in-law. She's alone.
So it's hard for her to have a sleepover with two of my kids. So I don't know if you guys get sleepovers very often either.
We really don't. If anything, like my daughter will go to one of her best friend's house and she'll sleep there one night, or, you know, sleep at my mom's house or her cousin's house. But that's pretty much the extent of it. My son, the middle one, he hates going out and sleeping out anywhere. My mom has offered, like, hey, come stay with me one night. And he'll be like, no, I want to be home with mommy. The baby absolutely has never slept out anywhere. So
Yeah.
that's something that I'm working on. I'm trying to wean him so that way I can get at least like a weekend alone, you know? I need that.
Yeah, well, it's like when my kids go to my parents' house and they do sleep over, my dad is like texting me every 2 minutes and sending me pictures. And I'm like, that's great and everything. But like, can you send it to me when they come home? You know, like I just want to be alone.
Yeah, exactly. I know what you mean by that.
So another thing that I thought about, like that kind of goes with date night, would be brunch. So that's a morning date. So pre-kids, you know, you and your lover, you're trying out the new hot spot, and you're gonna get your bottomless mimosas, and you have no time limit, so you can just relax and go at your pace. So after kids, it's like, do we have enough gear? Is everything checked off on our list? Can we endure the meltdowns that might exist if we bring the kids with us? So that's
Well, I know for me that brunch is not in my vocabulary right now unless we're eating it at home, because my son is usually sleeping at the time we would normally eat brunch because it's nap time. So for me, at this point in my life, it's not a thing.
Yeah.
The only time we eat brunch is if we sleep in late, which is a very, very rare occurrence, and we just didn't get to eat breakfast that day, so we'll just have a late breakfast. That's about it. But before I had kids, yes, I would have brunch all the time because you'd stay up all night hanging out and everything, and then you want to wake up late in the morning, and then brunch is your first meal. So yes, that used to happen, but not anymore.
It's funny because I have been trying to go to a Mother's Day brunch for the past this will be the third year. So year one, I tried making reservations like the weekend before. Apparently you can't do that here on Long Island because everybody was already booked up. So I couldn't go. Year two, COVID, everything is closed. So now year three, and I decided let's plan ahead. Right after Easter, I was looking at places where I can get brunch, and I want like a brunch buffet, not like just bottomless mimosas and you just pick whatever's on the menu. I want like wedding style buffet where there's like carving stations and things like that. So I found this place out east in Baiting Hollow. It costs $70 a person. 70. And then
that's insane. That's not in my budget.
No, me either. And then $30 a person for the kids. That to me is a little ridiculous because I know
that is ridiculous. The kids are barely going to eat half a plate.
Exactly. Like, what is Nate going to have? Like a chicken nugget and fries? Lacey might have a little bit more because she likes, you know, eggs and pancakes and things like that. But yeah, I told Rob, I was like, listen, this is like like going to a wedding. I mean, I do want to go. I've been dying to go for 3 years, but not at that price. For $225, I expect like white tablecloth service where they're going to come clean your crumbs off your table and everything, you know?
I agree. Definitely.
So it's definitely hard to get out with your kids. I feel like pre-kids, there was a lot more freedom. You pretty much did what you wanted to do when you wanted to do it. I know pre-kids, I used to paint a lot. You know, me and Rob went out all the time, if we had like $9 in our pocket, we'd say, what do you want to do today? Now, if I have $9, I'm like freaking out. We have $9. What are we going to do? You know?
Right.
How has that changed for you? Like, what did you do before kids that you can't do now?
Well, besides going out to eat whenever we wanted to and going to the movies whenever we wanted to, I think that also, like, even staying in is different for us because we used to just stay in, have maybe some drinks. I'm not a big drinker, at least. so I don't really drink too much. But, you know, we used to just chill out, watch movies. Now we have to be careful what movies we watch because the kids are around. So we can't just sit down and watch a movie together. We have to watch one as a family with the kids. So our choices in movies have changed. The things that we do to relax have changed. You know, we used to lay in bed all day and hang out on our days off. And now it's like, we can't do that. We got kids. So instead we have to like do more energetic, relaxing things, like going for a walk, for example.
Yeah, it's funny because every weekend, Rob is off on Sundays. So every Sunday, it's always, okay, what are we going to do today? We try to plan it Saturday night, so we're good to go for Sunday. But it's always, okay, do something for the kids. Then I guess go out to eat and then try to do something for me or for Rob. But the things that I want to do and the things that Rob want to do, the kids don't want to do. And the things the kids don't want to do, like I don't want to do. You know, last weekend we took them to Dave and Buster's. So it was like the first time that they've opened since COVID. And it was an Urban Air because the Urban Air trampoline park cost $100 for 2 kids. Dave and Buster's was $40 for, I guess we played for like an hour, but we all got to play. So that was nice that we all got to play. But like I was bored when I was at the trampoline park. You know, there's nothing for me to do there. I mean, I could have paid to do stuff, but I'm not gonna, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I would say the same thing, that it's like more exhausting to go out these days with the kids because it's like, one, you have to make sure everything's kid friendly. You can't just go anywhere. You have to make sure they have a kids menu where you're going or activities for the kids. And then even when you get there, I feel like they still don't enjoy themselves the way that you want them to, you know? It's always something. It's more work, in my opinion, than fun.
It's funny you say that because when we went to the trampoline park, by the time we left, we were so annoyed because the kids didn't want to try. They didn't want to like do anything. They both like went to go do the little sky coaster. They got to the edge and they couldn't even go. So they didn't do that. Then they had like this climbing section, like rock climbing and other climbing. They'd go up like 2 feet and fall down. And I'm like, what is the deal? I don't understand. And then like Nate's got an attitude and Lacey's upset. I'm like, guys, I spent a lot of money for you to come here. Why can't you enjoy yourself? So it's like this though everywhere. Either there's a face or an attitude or a problem. No one is ever satisfied.
No, they're not. But, you know, after you have kids, satisfaction in your marriage means something different than it did before kids. So before kids, you know, being satisfied in a marriage was you guys were going out enough. You guys give each other enough affection. You guys have enough sex. You know what I mean? Now it's like being satisfied in your relationship is completely different. Now it's like, do we have enough money to pay the bills? Do we have enough food in the fridge?
Talk sexy to me.
Are the kids happy today? You know, like those are the things that satisfy you in marriage after you have kids.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that about satisfaction of marriage. I have a little like facts quote, I guess you would say. So even as the marital satisfaction of new parents declines, the likelihood of them divorcing also declines. So having children may make you miserable, but at least you'll be miserable together. So that's like an interesting fact that I learned because I really thought that after kids, it really puts a strain on your relationship and the satisfaction of it. So I thought that divorce rate would jump up, but it says it declines. So, I'm sure though within that first year, there's a spike in divorce. So I feel like that first year of life is really going to test you as a person, you as a parent, and you as a couple.
Well, definitely if your relationship was shaky before you had kids, kids are not going to help your relationship. It's just going to make it harder. So you either, it's like a make or break type of thing. So you either have to make a decision, I'm going to stay with this person and I'm going to make it work no matter what, or we're going to go our separate ways and try to do the best we can as living separately as parents, because it's really a decision that you have to make. It's not just like, okay, like maybe we'll get divorced, maybe we won't. No, like you have to decide, are you going to make it work and put in the effort? And you both have to put in the effort. It's not always going to be one person trying.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that too, because I was looking at some other facts and statistics. And so if you're a married couple and you have a kid, you're less likely to get divorced. If you're not married and you have a kid, your likelihood to get divorced goes up a little bit more. And then if you are not married, but you're also not expecting this child, it was a surprise, then the rate of breaking up or the rate of divorce skyrockets. I guess basically because you're not prepared for it. It wasn't something you maybe wanted. So I can see how that would definitely put a strain on your relationship and take out some satisfaction. So staying lovers while having kids is very important. So what are couples doing that are still together that are doing it right? Me and you, we still have our relationships. I know this May I'll be married for 10 years. I think you'll be married 10 years also this
Yep,
year?
I'll be married 10 years in November.
Yeah, and I know that we've both, though, I've been with Rob for 15 years. You've been with Martin for 18?
18, 17, 18, something like that.
Yeah, I think it's been 18 years since we graduated high school, so I want to say 18 years. But a fun little fact, so the key to marital satisfaction lies in how couples manage the decision-making process. So it's not whether the couples have problems, because every couple does. Understanding your differences of opinion. So, you know, you may feed the baby differently than your husband feeds the baby, or he may change the diaper differently than you change the diaper. So, understanding those differences is going to help the relationship and going to help your satisfaction. And even just making some time for your relationship, even if it's just 10 minutes a day, just to catch up. I do have 7 little facts or 7 little things that you may feel.
Pointers. Yeah.
There you go. 7 pointers that you may feel you know, during this time and what to do. So the first one I have is, so don't be surprised if you're not happy. That's normal. The satisfaction is going to decline in any relationship over time. So, you know, if you're a new mother, you're a new father, you're vulnerable. And obviously, the satisfaction is going to take its toll. Also, another tip would be try to take the same amount of paternal leave as your partner if you can. They say that if you take equal amounts of leave, then you both will be on the same page of who's raising the baby. Well, not who's raising, but how the baby's being raised. They say that, you know, if the father goes back to work earlier than the mother, then the mother automatically becomes the maternal one, the one that the baby goes to, the one that knows how to soothe the baby. And it could be a burden for the mother because the father is not taking on as much responsibility because the mother's home.
See, I have something to say about that, because in my case, that wasn't even a possibility. Because one, I wasn't working at the time. My husband was the sole provider, especially with my third. And even on my first and second, when I had maternity leave and I went back to work afterwards, it's not the same because the baby needs the mom for breast milk. And I was lucky that 2 of my kids took bottles, but this third one, he doesn't take any bottles. There was absolutely no way I was going to be able to go back to work. So it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Like, the dad can help in other ways, but I do agree with some parts. Like, giving the dad some responsibilities as well is a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I know when I was on maternity leave, as soon as Rob would come home, I'm like, oh, it's your turn. Here you go. Here's the baby. Have a great day. I'm off duty right now. You know, the parent who takes less leave has less experience soothing the baby. So the parent that takes more leave, it's almost always the biological mother, becomes the default baby whisperer because she has more experience. So it's really hard to get out of that pattern once you're in it. So I know here in the United States, it's not typical that a husband would take off for the 12 weeks that the mother would. I know when I had my first kid, Nathan, Rob took off for, I'm pretty sure it was 2 weeks. Then with the second baby with Lacey, I want to say he took off maybe a week, maybe two. I'm not really exactly sure, but he wasn't home for 12 weeks with either kid. I don't know if he was around.
Well, the way that in the United States, the way that maternity and paternity leave works is you really don't get paid. So most of the time, I feel like we can't afford to not let our husbands go, like, stay home from work for 2 months. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
it's just not financially possible. I think the mother needs longer off because she's the one who gave birth. She's the one whose body is going through all the changes. Like, yes, the dad is going through mental changes as well, and maybe some physical with the lack of sleep and stuff, but it's not the same thing. And I will argue that till the day I die.
Yeah, I agree. I think, well, that I think goes into the next tip, which would be managing your expectations. So take the image of the ideal parent and throw it in the garbage because it does not exist. And there's
no ideal parent, and there's no manual for parenthood.
And there's such like an aggressive cultural expectation about what a good mother is supposed to be, that I feel it puts a lot of stress on the new mother, puts a lot of stress on your relationship and your satisfaction. But
and I think that falls truer now more than ever with social media. Everybody's a perfect parent. Nobody can do any wrong, and everybody always has something to say about the person next door, you know?
Right, exactly. That it's like do as I say but not as I do, right?
Right, exactly.
So here's a fun little statistic. So according to the Pew Research Center, the majority of Americans still believe that women do a better job caring for new babies than men do. Only 1% of Americans think men do a better job. Almost 80% believe women face a lot of pressure to be an involved parent, which I totally agree with. I think that the mentality of the old ways are still in set. So mother stays home. She takes on the maternal instinct. She cooks, she cleans, she takes care of the children. The father works. I mean, it's like that in my household. It's like that in your household, but that's not the case for everyone. And that hasn't been the case for us for always. This is just like a reason for myself. It's a lot of pressure to be that perfect mother and also work and also, keep up with your relationship with your husband or your boyfriend.
I think that women also need to give the dad more credit though, because a lot of women treat the dad as a babysitter, and I find that even in my relationship sometimes I find that to be true too. Like, oh, I'm going to the supermarket, can you watch the baby? Like, no, you're the dad, you should watch him. Shouldn't have to ask you to watch him for an hour, you know what I mean? Like,
it's funny that you say that because there's somebody that I like follow on Instagram, and she says that all the time. I cannot stand when women are like, oh, my husband's watching the kids. No, your husband is a parent. He's not watching his children. He's taking care of his kids while you're not there. So that whole notion of the father being the babysitter really like bothers me. I don't like that.
Yeah, it does to me too. And, I think that even sometimes my husband will be like, no, I'm not watching them. And I'm like, yeah, you are. You're their parent too. I'm not their only parent. Or he'll tell me like, oh, the kids are hungry. I'm like, all right, well, the kitchen's right there. Make them something to eat, Like, I'm not the one that needs to be responsible 24/7.
Right. It's funny you say that because the next tip is to make a list of tasks and divide them evenly. So I think that's a good idea to do to take the pressure off of you as a parent. So they suggest that parents should list all of their household tasks, including childcare, and divide them in ways that seem fair, not equatable. So it doesn't have to be equal. So if one partner works 15 more hours a week than the other partner, then they'll probably be doing fewer chores and child-related work. But all the experts agreed that agreements led to the most like ad hoc agreements. So like, on the fly led to the most strife. So making this provides a way for parents to work through all of the potential pain points. So the next step that goes with that is getting granular with your lists. So meaning really get down to the nitty gritty of your lists. Like if your husband is off on the weekend, so you can tell him like, listen, from 6 p.m. on, it's your duty to pick up the kids wherever they are. On Tuesdays, I take them here. Wednesdays, I take them here. Thursdays, I need you to pick them up here. So that way it's not just because you're a stay-at-home mom that you need to take care of anything related to the child. And because the father goes to work, he then just takes care of anything related to work or money or things like that.
Yeah.
What do you do in your household? Do you make any lists, or do you kind of just have like this verbal agreement?
We don't make any lists. We try to make verbal agreements, but this is definitely something that we personally need to work on in our relationship, because I feel like I'm taking the brunt of the responsibility with the parenting, and all he's needing to worry about is going to work and making money, which is hard. I get it and I appreciate it, but I feel like my job is hard too. My job's not easy and I don't get paid for it. You know, at least you get a paycheck. I don't, you know? So, and also it's more mentally exhausting, I feel, in my.
I also know that being a stay-at-home mother is equivalent to like 3 full-time jobs. So it's really rough, and you don't get paid like you said before.
Are you thinking about starting your own podcast? Don't know where to start? Well, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to start a podcast. Let me tell you about it. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. And best of all, it's free. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Just download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
The 6th step is to not be a maternal gatekeeper, which basically that means don't dictate to your partner what they should be doing, how they should be feeding the baby. Don't nitpick, you swaddled the baby wrong, you didn't use the right water, blah, blah, blah. So if the mother wants childcare to be divided fairly, they have to let the fathers do things their own way, even if it's not your way. But if the child is truly in danger, then that's another story, and then you as a mother need to intervene. But you're letting the father learn how to respond to the kid, and learning everything there is to the kid, so that way you're not as stressed as the mother, and you can just pass the child along, I guess, if you will. I know when our kids were young, and even now, we split the responsibilities in my house. Yes, I am the one that stays home, and I work during the day when the kids are in school. But Rob is the main provider, and he's the one that's working 11 hours a day, 6 days a week. So I'm the one with the kids the majority of the time. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he gets off the hook for everything. He still comes home. He does studying with Nathan's in the 3rd grade, so he studies his math and his Bible and whatever he needs to be studied. And that's one aspect of schooling that I'm horrible at. I can help Nathan and Lacey with their homework, but when it comes to studying, I'm terrible. I don't know about you. What do you guys do that helps alleviate the roles, but also makes him still feel like the father?
Well, I know that's something that we both struggled with, especially with our first kid, is that, oh, you're not doing it right. I do it this way and I do it this way. And even, I feel like it even felt more true for him, because he would ask me, is this the right way to do it? Is this the right way to do it? And I said, is it working? If it's working, it's fine. Do it that way, I was the more lenient one. But when we had our first, I was the one working mostly, and he was the one staying home. So our roles were reversed, and he was the one who would tell me, well, I do it this way, we do it this way. And I'm like, well, your way is not the only way that it can be done.
Yeah.
So we would argue about that sometimes. But now that we have more kids and I'm with them a lot too, it's not the same like that anymore. But I know in the beginning, we definitely did struggle with that. It was a learning curve. You know, eventually he realized, like, okay, well, I guess this way works too. And he stopped nagging me about everything.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like when Rob was home, he was a stay-at-home dad for a while, and I went and worked, I was the one that was like, this isn't right, you didn't put this away right, or you didn't do this right. So I was the one working, and I was the one coming home telling him this isn't right, you know? So he does not do that to me. And, you know, I should not have done that to him either, but it's hard to not, like, you know, want things done your way, pretty much.
I feel like maybe I'm the one who does that more now because I feel like I try to control the situation. I think I even do that more with my kids more than him because I'm like, okay, you're an adult, you can handle it. But with my kids, I'd be like, no, that's not the right way. And then I realize I have to take a step back and let them figure things out on their own and not try to control and nitpick every single little situation. So that's definitely something I've been learning.
Yeah, I really need to work on that also because I do the same thing. I like pick everything, and then I realize I'm like up their ass for just stupid reasons, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so the last and final tip to help you set with your satisfaction in your relationship after children is to redefine your sex life. So having a child is a complete reorganization of the structure of your life. So including your sex life. Many biological parents are given the go-ahead to have sex 6 weeks postpartum. That's because at 6 weeks, you can be penetrated without tearing, to be a little graphic. But that doesn't mean that you're ready for it physically or mentally. You know, it could really take as long as a year before you're actually ready to have sex with your partner. So they say that 90% of mothers resume sex within 6 months of birth. So 83% are experiencing sexual issues 3 months postpartum, and 64% are still experiencing issues 6 months postpartum. So I really think that is a big turning point in your relationship. It's not going to be exactly the same. You are going to have to wait because you just had trauma happen to your body, whether you had a C-section or a normal birth. But I also feel like that is something that helps you connect to your partner on a deeper level. Otherwise, if you're not having sex and you're not having a good sexual relationship, to me, that's a friendship and you have a roommate.
Right. And another thing I want to say about that is that in the beginning, when you first have a baby, like it's a physical reason why you can't have sex. But if you wait too long, it starts becoming a habit, and then you kind of forget what it was like before when you had sex all the time, and you kind of make the new habit like not having sex.
Right. Just
So
like
I think
going through the motions of life, with newborn.
And I think sometimes, you know, I know it maybe not everyone will agree with me, but this is the way I feel. Even sometimes when you don't feel like having sex, you just need to do it anyway. Just to kind of like keep the momentum going, keep the relationship going, keep your partner happy. Because, you know, like usually men have bigger sex drives than women do. And they're not happy if they're not having sex at least once a week.
Well, we're starting to get to a point in our age where we are at the height of our sex drive and the men are tapering off. So we might be more sexual than the man is, because they say 35 is like the peak of a woman's sexual proudness. I don't know what you want to call it, sexual whatever. But I definitely think that it's going to change. And I feel like maybe the husband really isn't the one that's going to initiate the first time, because maybe he doesn't want to pressure the the wife or the girlfriend, or he just doesn't want to.
Or I know in my case, the reason why he won't initiate is because fear of rejection. You know, so many times you say, no, not tonight. No, not tonight. I'm too tired. Eventually, he's going to stop asking because he doesn't want to be rejected anymore. So that for us has been one of the main reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. You become complacent in life and you just start to go through the motions, and that doesn't become a priority anymore because you have so many other things stacked up on the list that just falls to the bottom. But I really think that you need to make time for your partner, whether it's sexual or not. I mean, but I'm a strong believer that if you are not having sex in your relationship, then you don't have a relationship. You have a friendship, you have a roommate. But it can be worked on. It doesn't mean that, like, if you haven't had sex in 6 months, let's say, whether you have a kid or not, you know, maybe that's something you need to look at and ask what's going on and why is this happening? Is it me? Is it him? Is it both of us? Do we still like each other? Is there just something going on that is just really taking a toll on that aspect of the relationship? And maybe sometimes people decide they don't even like each other anymore. That's why that's happening.
Right. So that's a good segue to go into what I have here for maintaining your relationship after marriage, or after kids, I should say. Because it is easy to just get into a routine and kind of forget what life was like before you had kids. And with the sex thing, that is a really big thing because it keeps you connected, it keeps you bonded, it keeps you intimate. And if you're not having that, it becomes like just another person living in the house with you, paying the bills. And it's not the same as, and it's easy to fall out of love too when you don't keep that relationship going, and you don't want that to happen because eventually your kids are going to grow up and move out, and then all that's left is going to be you two, and it's not going to be good if you guys don't even know each other or don't even like each other. So one of the things that you can do is maybe like set one day, at least start with one day a week where you say, okay, like this day every week is going to be like our sex day, you know, and this is going to be the time, like our day, and whatever you want to do. One day he initiates, one day you initiate, but I think that will definitely help your relationship.
So making your marriage a priority should be number one. And a lot of people say, oh, my kids are my priority, but really your marriage should be your priority before your kids, because once your kids move out of the house, it's going to be only you two left again, just like it was in the beginning. And if you guys don't like each other or even know who each other are anymore, that's not going to work out for you guys in the end.
Right.
And also, it's good to show your kids what a healthy marriage and relationship looks like. So when it's time for them to be on their own and find somebody, they have a good example of what growing up, what a good relationship looked like. Did you have a good good role models in your parents?
I mean, my parents are still married. They've been married for, I think, 35 years. Did they have the best relationship as a married couple? No. My parents both worked. They were both full-time workers. So I don't really know I think my mom stayed home for the first 4 years when she had kids, and then she went back to work, and we were like shuffled back and forth to daycares and after school programs, early morning programs. I remember I was in elementary school. And then when I got older, I was in middle school, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. So she kind of stopped working after the cancer. So she's been like retired pretty much ever since. My dad still works. But you know, their relationship had a lot of screaming, a lot of fights. It wasn't a very loving relationship. And even towards me and my sister, I don't remember my parents saying, I love you, or giving hugs or anything like that. I remember my dad, he would yell at me and he would tell you, the only reason I yell at you is because I love you. That was like his form of affection. So I don't know if maybe that has played into my relationship now, but I mean, it definitely I mean, it could have been worse, you know. I know Rob's family, his mom got divorced, and you know, so we could have been worse in that sense.
Yeah, I definitely think that seeing the way that my parents stayed married even through the tough times and, you know, never gave up on each other, that really made a big impact on me. And for us, it was more like when they would fight behind closed doors. So they would never really fight in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, kids know more than what they let on. And you still can sense that something's like, oh, mommy's mad at daddy or daddy's mad at mommy.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes it's good to fight in front of the kids, but you also have to remember to make up in front of them too, because then that way they don't always see just the fighting part, you know?
Yeah,
but
or at least like let them see that everything is fine, even if you don't in front of them.
Right. So another thing that's good to maintain your relationship is to have a conversation with your spouse, not just the everyday, you know, what's for dinner, you know, can you put the kids to bed? Like, no, have a real conversation with your spouse, acknowledge that you guys miss each other, ask how you can help each other. And most likely, you know, if one doesn't do it, you start the trend and the other one will likely reciprocate it.
I agree with that. I mean, I feel like it goes with anybody, right? You know, if you're treating them bad, they're most likely going to treat you bad because that's how you treat them. So,
and I think that it's easy to kind of fall into the pattern of not speaking that often because, oh, you think you know everything about your partner already, so what's left to say? Right. But having a good conversation, you know, can definitely bring you guys closer, even if it's about the kids or about your childhood or something. You know, there's always something to learn, which brings me to the next point is always continue trying to learn more about your partner. Don't just assume that you know everything about them, because what they liked 5-10 years ago might not necessarily be their like today. You know, a lot happens in life in those 5-10 years, and your likes change, your hobbies change. So be interested in what the other person is interested in, even if you're not that excited about sports, but you know your husband's crazy about basketball. Just pretend to like it for 5 minutes, you know, be genuinely interested in what he's doing. Like for us, it's video games because he just loves to play video games. I can really care less how many kills you got in a game. But for him, it's so exciting that he got 25 kills in a game, you know? So I'm like, you know, yay, I'm happy for you because it makes him feel good. I really could care less, but you you gotta make the other person feel good.
And I think also me and you can relate to that situation because I have been in our relationships for so long that we've had to go through many different ups and downs and different trials and tribulations of our relationship due to just growing up and getting older.
I agree. Definitely being high school sweethearts, it's like we've changed so much from the people that we weren't in the beginning, and it's just natural to change. I mean, we met when we were teenagers, so of course we're going to grow. The thing is though that you don't want to grow apart, you want to grow together. So you don't want to grow in completely different directions. Like, yes, grow separately, but still walk the same path together.
I think that's why a lot of relationships tend to fail, because they did get together so early on in life and they had kids so early on in life that they really didn't get to grow with each other and mature with each other and experience life beforehand. I mean, me and Rob didn't have kids until we were 26. So that was 6 years into our relationship. So we had a good run, you know, without kids, but that's not necessarily the same for everyone else.
Well, we were 8 years into our relationship when we had kids, but I was not married when I found out I was pregnant. So that kind of rushed us to get married. So even though we were together, we weren't married, but we got married before she was born. But still, it's like completely different when you're dating and then all of a sudden now you're married and you're about to have a kid. Like, I think it makes it kind of like more serious, makes your relationship more permanent, more serious. So,
Yeah, definitely.
but another thing you can do is make a list of some of the things you enjoyed doing together before you had kids, and then make it a point to do those things again. So it's like on date night, choose maybe one thing a month that you did beforehand that you don't get to do anymore, but you really enjoy doing. Like, I know for us, we really enjoyed going to the shooting range. And I really haven't done that since we've had kids, but I used to love to do that target practice and shooting skeet. Like, that was so much fun. And we both had fun. We both enjoy doing that. So that is something that I feel like we can do again.
Oh, we do that now. Me and Rob, we go to the shooting range on Sundays because Rob is, that's one of his hobbies is guns. And previous to last year, I had never shot a gun before. So I wanted to go and experience the whole thing and, shoot these guns that we spent all this money on. So it's actually something that I liked and I was pretty good at it. And, once it gets nicer out, we can start doing that again. But obviously we cannot bring the kids. They are not old enough. I think Nate has to be 13, which he thinks he's 13 and thinks he can handle it, but he doesn't understand that he doesn't listen.
Yeah, there's a lot of safety measures that go into that. I know my husband was a gun instructor, a shooting instructor. So he knows how to take a gun apart, how to put it together, how to clean it, what bullet goes to what gun. And he knows all the safety. But I told him that our kids are not ready to, and he agrees. So our kids have not looked at a gun, touched a gun. They don't even, not a real one, at least, only Nerf guns. But
I really wish though that I lived in a place where you can just be on your property and use your guns.
Yeah, that would be fun. I was gonna say, if my kids shoot a real gun like they shoot a Nerf gun, we'd all be dead. So
yeah, exactly.
Another one thing you can do is make a list of 5 things each that you think would improve your marriage at this stage of parenting, and then talk about which things that you guys can do realistically. It kind of ties into what you said before about responsibilities and things like that, but this focuses more on the two of you and not so much on the kids.
Well, I think it's very important to have that alone time with your significant other. I think it was not last year because of COVID, but the year before that, me and Rob went to Newport in Rhode Island and took 4 days away from the kids, and we went by ourselves. We went on vacation and it was so relaxing.
Yeah. So if getting away once every couple months is something that you need to do, put that on your list. It's going to be different for everybody. And then appreciate each other more. So do something nice for each other that that to let them know that maybe you're thinking about them or that you appreciate them. Like the other day, my husband was feeling underappreciated and he let me know. So I washed his car for him while he was sleeping because he likes to sleep in the morning on his days off. So I figured when he wakes up, he'll have a nice clean car, and it was a really nice day. So I took the kids outside and I washed his car for him. I mean, I scrubbed that thing inside crazy. And he was really happy, to have a nice car. It's just something to show I appreciate him. A back rub, or maybe like running the bath for somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. Little things definitely make a difference.
And then finding out each other's love languages. I know that's kind of cliche, but it's true that people feel loved in different ways. Like some people like affection, some people like touch, some people like to be shown, like, you got to buy them something. So depending on what your spouse's love language is, it might not be the same as yours. It's easy to just try to love them the way that you want to be loved, but it's not always the same. So you have to find out what makes them feel loved and then do that.
I agree with that. I'm not a very touchy-feely person, so it takes a lot for me to really, be like a cuddler and, just things like that. So I'm a little bit different in that sense, where Rob is a little bit more open to that. Maybe that comes from my past with my parents' relationship, and that they weren't openly lovingly.
Also, it's just the way you are. Like, if your parents aren't lovey-dovey, touchy-feely, maybe it's just because that's not their love language. And hey, maybe you inherited that from them, right? Because I don't feel like my parents were super lovey-dovey either, but I do struggle with that too. Like, for me, it's like, okay, tell me I look nice. Tell me I'm doing a great job with the kids. Those are the things that make me feel loved. Martin, he wants like a hug, and he wants to be touched, and he wants his back scratched. Those are the things that he wants.
That's something that Rob does all the time. He's always telling me how pretty I look or how great the dinner tasted, just always giving me compliments and making me feel good.
That's nice. It's very nice.
I agree. I need to figure out how to do that with him.
It's a learning process, relationships are all about learning about each other.
Yeah.
So I don't have that much more. I only have maybe 2 or 3 more things, but something you can do is find something that connects you guys and do that, like music or dancing or your love for movies, or if you like playing games, find something that connects you guys and then do that on nights that you guys have together. You can write each other love notes, or nowadays text messages, I love you, or just a nice little message to let them know you're thinking about them. And the last thing I have is going back to the sex thing, right? When you don't really have time to have a lot of sex anymore now that you have kids. So you want to focus on quality, not quantity. Because if you're having good sex and it's going to be more memorable, you're going to be more satisfied, you won't need it as often. So we talked about so many things that will help you in your relationship, the struggles that we deal with in our relationships after having children. And hopefully you find this beneficial and you're able to improve your own relationship with the tips that we gave you guys. And all of this stuff we found on different websites, which we'll post in the description down below, besides our own personal experiences.
Yeah, and if you guys like what we had to say today, please make sure that you like and subscribe, turn on your notification, but also leave us some comments. Maybe later on Instagram, I'll post like a little poll or something, and leave us some questions. Anything is up for answers. We are here to answer all of your questions.
Well, it was so nice talking to you guys today. Have a great day.
Bye, Candid Mamas. See you guys Friday. Thank you so much for listening to Candid Motherhood Podcast.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please subscribe, share, and rate our podcast.
If you have any ideas for future episodes or want to learn more about us, please follow us on Facebook and Instagram at candid.motherhood and on Twitter at @cmotherhood.
We appreciate your love and support. Until next time, thank you, Candid Mamas.